Let's talk about tipping culture. I want to start this off by saying this is not an attack against any wait staff, back of the house, any staff that works at a restaurant, because I'm specifically referring to tipping at restaurants. This is just a conversation that needs to be had, and it's a long time coming. How do we as a people change tipping culture? Because I know I'm not alone when I say it's getting out of hand. I recently went to this restaurant. We go every year for my friend's birthday, and then she reciprocates for my birthday. And we sat down, we ate. The waitress was great. And when the check came, I put, I had cash on me, but not enough to leave the tip in cash. So I put money on the check as tip, and then I left the cash on the table. But I hadn't yet put the money on the table when the waitress came to grab the check. About 5 minutes later, she comes over and she's like, "Was my service not good?" And I was like, "Excuse me?" She's like, "Was there something wrong with my service?" And I'm like, "Not that I can recall. Why?" She didn't say anything, but you could tell that she had something to say about, I think it was a $15 tip that I had left on the receipt. And then I left another 10 on the table, but she hadn't seen it because I hadn't put it on the table yet. So I'm like, "No, your service was fine." She's like, "Oh, I guess I'm just asking." And then she walks away. And something like that made me not want to leave the extra $10 on the table. I see a lot of posts where people say if you can't afford to leave a tip, don't go out to eat. What? Today is hard enough. These days everything is hard. So telling people not to go to a restaurant to enjoy themselves with their family just because restaurants are requiring us to pay the salaries of their employees, that's not a fair statement to make. I am a very generous person, so I'm not complaining about tipping. What I want to know, I'm not complaining about anything actually, I'm just curious. What I want to know is if my tip is based on the service that I receive, right? Why is it that it goes based on the amount of the bill? So if I order a sirloin and my partner orders a prime rib, that bill's going to be higher because of my partner ordering a prime rib. And then I have to pay 18 to 20% of that bill. So what does the waiter or the waitress do differently when she brings a prime rib and a sirloin to my table versus bringing two sirloins? Like, am I making sense? Like, I feel like it makes sense in my head, but I just want to make sure that it makes sense when I'm explaining it. Like, you're already charging me a very escalated price for this prime rib. And now because we're ordering a more expensive item on your menu, I have to now pay more on a tip that's supposed to be based off of the service that I received, not the food that I ordered. But it still comes down to the total on my bill. And then you want me to put the tip on top of the taxes. So you want me to tip the full amount, not the pre-tax amount. So I need somebody in the restaurant industry who can explain it to me like I'm five. One thing that pissed me off recently, I called in a pickup order. They made me pay over the phone, which is fine. I think I called 20 minutes in advance. I got there, they hadn't even started my order. I parked 2 blocks away, walked inside, had to wait the 20 minutes. And when he hands me my bill to just sign it because he had already charged my card, he's like, "Don't worry about leaving a tip. It's already included." And I'm like, "What do you mean it's already included?" He's like, "Yeah, it's already included. All orders, takeouts, dine in, one person, 20 people, it's already included and it's 20%. I was like, "Do me a favor and take this tip off of my bill." You guys you forgot that I called in my order and you had already charged me. And not to mention, when I gave you my card number, you gave me a certain amount that you were going to charge me. And then now that you're giving me this receipt, that's not the same amount you told me over the phone. Because the amount you told me over the phone didn't include this 20% tip. So you charged my card for an amount that I didn't agree to. It's no secret that restaurants use the patrons to make up for that difference. I don't know if it's like that in every single state, but I know there are plenty of states that they put the pressure on the on the patrons to make up the difference. People literally rely on tips to survive. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair to the wait staff who's showing up and working and busting their ass for your business for you to be like, yeah, we're going to pay you as little as possible. And then we're hoping that the general public is generous enough to make up the difference in the money that you're making. And granted, there are people who make more money than I do being a waiter, waitress, or some type of restaurant staff. So it's not that everybody's out here struggling. There's a lot of restaurants that are like a high commodity and they don't have a high turnover because of how terrible it is to work in that type of environment with no guaranteed income. I can't work on commission. And that's basically what that is. That's what it feels like. At least you know that when you sell a house, if you're a realtor, you're getting that commission. When you're a waiter or you work in a restaurant, it's not guaranteed that you're getting that payment at the end. It's not guaranteed that that tip is coming. There's a lot of people that don't believe in tipping. And again, I do it because I really, sympathize with the people who work hard and have tables that don't leave a single tip, but it shouldn't be on me to pay your salary. So what are your thoughts? What can we do without harming the people who currently rely on tips? I don't want to harm anyone. I don't want to cause anyone more financial stress than what we're already going through as a society. But what can we do to force, restaurants and businesses to pay their people at the very minimum wage? Like, pay them a livable salary or as close to it as you can justify. And then if they get tips, great. But it shouldn't be. I really want to call out certain restaurants and be like, are you willing to take that step? Are you willing to pioneer this to where you're like, you know what? We're going to pay them a salary and then we'll go from there. Because, start a trend, start a domino effect. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start calling around to restaurants and then ask them, do you pay your staff $2 an hour or do you pay them a decent wage? And then I'm going to make a list and then I'm going to share that list with you guys. And those are the restaurants that we're going to support. Those are the restaurants that we're going to go eat at. And those are the restaurants that we're going to lift up because they're doing the right thing. I'm sure there are some out there. I just don't know off the top of my head. So that's what I'm going to do. What are you going to do? And what are your thoughts on this?